And it's my pleasure to welcome you all here on behalf of the English Department of Janki Devi Memorial College. Before we dwell into our discussion of reliving Descartes' discourses, I would first like to invite our professor Swati Pal to say a few words.
Well, first and foremost, of course, I would like to, on behalf of all of us in college, welcome you, Urmi, to this virtual platform. And as I said a little while ago, I'm greatly indebted to the English Association, Sanjukta, to you and to you, Ruchi, and your team of students for putting together this absolutely fascinating set of foundational lectures. And this particular lecture really is fascinating by its very title. And let me tell you that Descartes is one person whom I have been fascinated by for one primary reason, which is that I could never imagine that a mathematician would be a philosopher. For me, that is the most exciting part of him, and the precision with which mathematicians think, the very quantitative way in which they analyze things. I often wonder as to, therefore, how does that lend to the discourse of philosophy, which of course, therefore, has made me really curious to listen to you today, Urmi, and I'm really looking forward to it like everybody else in the audience. So warm welcome to you, and thank you very much for accepting the invite of the English Association. Thanks a lot.
A very good evening to all viewers, respected organizers, and to dear students. I'm grateful to all the organizers here to allow me to speak on this topic, especially to Professor Sanjukta Noshkar, my Sanjukta Di, who initiated the process. My heartfelt thanks to the President, Vice President, and teacher in charge, and also to the respected Principal Madam. Thanks once again to the entire English department of Janki Devi Memorial College. I hope I could do justice to the topic.
Okay, Urmi,
Okay.
1 minute
Yes,
before you
Chandra.
start, we must formally welcome you and also introduce you. Just give us a minute, please.
All right, Chandra.
Thank you, Professor Paul, for your kind and inspiring words. It is our pleasure to introduce Dr. Urmi Ray as the speaker of today's event. Dr. Urmi Ray is an assistant professor in the Department of Philosophy in Women's Christian College, Kolkata. She is also a guest faculty at University of Calcutta and ex-guest at Presidency University. Her specialization lies in practical ethics, Western and social political philosophy. She has also written the book Terrorism, an Epidemic of Today's World, Can There Be a Solution?, published by University of Calcutta on August 2014. She has also been working with publication in national and international journals. She is also a regular author of the Bulletin of Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture. We welcome Dr. Umi Ray as the speaker for today's lecture and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule for this lecture series. We are very grateful to Dr. Umi Ray for accepting our invitation and being here today. Without wasting another moment, I would like to invite Dr. Urmi Ray to take the stage. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you once again. Thank you so much. Uh, Reliving Descartes' discourses. That is the topic today. So I've heard students, you've got this discourse on method part 4, the book in your syllabus. So you must be knowing that it was written in 1637. This was one of the influential writings of Descartes, amongst the others, which were Meditations on First Philosophy, Principles of Philosophy, Rules for the Direction of the Mind, and Passions of the Soul. Rene Descartes, 1596 to 1650. Being a mathematician, Rene Descartes wanted to establish a certain and necessary ground for philosophy, especially to eradicate its obscurity. Why obscurity? Because philosophy's central stage was held by metaphysics. Metaphysics was considered to be the queen of all sciences at one time, but it had fallen to its disrepute, as Immanuel Kant said. This is because metaphysics dealt with topics like God, soul, universe as a whole. Now, these are things which are not found in this material world. So often, people from other disciplines keep on wondering that what do philosophers do? What is philosophy all about? Is it really about such abstract things which are not to be found here? Then what is the use of thinking or talking about all these things? Because we'll never find them here. So here lied the problem with metaphysics. And Descartes wanted to bring in some clarity, some concrete base, a level of certitude to philosophy. That amount of certitude which is actually found in the demonstration of arithmetic and geometry. That was his aim or motto, so that philosophy can gain its respect once again. Now, Descartes proposed to lay down 36 rules. He mentioned 31 of them while organizing or systematizing his method in philosophy. Finally, he talked of 4 broad rules for the direction of the mind in his book Regulae. We find in Western philosophy there are 2 branches of thought. One is the empiricists and the other, the rationalists. Empiricism talks of acquiring knowledge through the sense organs from the objects found in our experience. There are 5 sense organs, as we all know: eye, ear, nose, skin, tongue. These 5 sense organs acquire different qualities from the different objects which are found in our material world. Now, Descartes said that the knowledge that we acquire from empiricism is not a very steady, not a very stable kind of knowledge because it is ever changing. So he has actually criticized this knowledge, and according to him, since he was not an empiricist but a rationalist, according to him, reason was the most important source of acquiring knowledge, and that knowledge would be considered to be of worth which is acquired by us through reason. That is what Descartes has always mentioned. So, while mentioning the 4 broad rules of direction of the mind, he has always emphasized upon reason, and he says that the mind could be directed in the right way by exercising reason, the faculty of reason properly. Amongst the 4 broad rules, the first rule which he mentions is whatever we study should direct our minds to make true and sound judgments about experience. True and sound judgments about experience, right? Because experience is already on a very weaker side, because whatever we obtain from experience is ever changing, is to some extent illusory and doubtful. So, the amount of knowledge we obtain from experience, that should be true and sound. That is how our mind should be trained to acquire knowledge from experience of daily life. Second rule states we should only study objects about which we can obtain certain and evident cognition. Now, truth has got 3 criteria mainly in philosophy, that is, universality, necessity, and certainty. So, here he says that he's always actually aiming to reach at truth and not at any obscure, superfluous, abstract concepts which philosophy had dealt with so long. That's why he's saying that we should always obtain certain and evident cognition in the second principle. Cognition here means knowledge. Third rule, we should study objects that we ourselves can clearly deduce and refrain from conjecture and reliance on the work of others. He says that the philosopher's work is to come up with a truth, and this truth cannot be brought about by a gang of scientists or cannot be brought about by some great men, because the scientists or some great men had said that this is true, therefore I accept this to be true. No, this should not be our notion of truth. The truth which we would consider should always be self tested. It must have some self immediacy. That is, when we are believing some concept to be true within our mind, then there should be certain beliefs or justifications within our system only, which would actually forcefully claim that yes, this concept is true. For the verification of truth of the concept, in that case, we do not have to fall back on experience or fall back on any other person to justify whether it is true or false. That truth would come from within me. It should be self tested. He says that philosophers to come up with truth do not need gangs of scientists, as I've said, and also said that they just need a quiet room and a rational mind. He has always emphasized on that. We can acquire truth or we can reach at truth if we are given a quiet room and if we have that peace of mind. Thus come Meditations, his famous book, and he is very pro meditation. He says that meditation should be taken as a part of our daily life curriculum, which actually sharpens our reason, and it does away with all the confusions, anxieties, and emotions, passions we have, which actually cloud our mind uh, and fail us to take to truth or certainty. Rule 4 says that the mind requires a fixed method to discover truth. Thus, here comes method. Now, what was Descartes' method in finding out truth? The first part of his method was to reduce involved and obscure propositions step by step to those which are simpler. The second percept was to divide up each of the difficulties to be examined to as many parts as possible and as seemed requisite. Because he was a mathematician, thus it was required for him to analyze every complicated thing to its simpler parts. And from this actually emanates the concept of analytic philosophy, which later on was studied by Wittgenstein and other logical positivists, which was a far later on movement, which was found in postmodernism. That movement seed has been actually sown by Descartes. Now, Descartes was certainly influenced in his conception of this kind of method by mathematics, since he was a mathematician. His method started with the question: how can one know that anything, including oneself, actually exists, rather than being a dream or phantasm? Now that I'm talking, now that I'm seeing you all virtually, you are seeing me. Well, is it a dream or is it really happening? How do we know? In dreams, also, we see different things and we think that they are very much true, but actually, they are mere ideas of our mind. So, how do we know that we are not dreaming right now, that this is reality? This was an important question. Descartes doubted whether he was actually sitting on his chair with the dressing gown on beside the fireplace or dreaming the entire situation. Now, it has to be noted that such a doubt of Descartes was not a psychological doubt. It is not that it was his experience that everything around him was illusory, nothing actually existed. No, it's not like that. He had actually imposed or executed such a doubt to find out the truth. Okay, so it was rather a thought experiment executed by him to reach at certainty. Well, traditional Greek philosophers were subjected to dogmatism, as we've come across Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. They were rather influenced by the authority of churches. In fact, during that time, philosophy had been much influenced by theology. Descartes broke from this and started doubting all that which were imposed by those philosophers. The concepts such as knowledge through sense experience, that the external world existed, that I and others have minds. So these were the concepts which were already stated by philosophers. Without testing them, they had just laid them down out of their dogmatic views. Now, Descartes' principle was sieving truth from falsity. Sieving truth means we use a sieve and we pass things, whatever goes through the sieve, okay, they are something pure, and whatever particles remain back in the sieve, those things are hindrances of the purity. So here also he applies this method. He sieves all knowledge. Whatever passes through the sieve would be indubitable, and whatever stays back cannot be considered as truth because that can be put to doubt. That was his method. Now, what are the things that he had doubted? One by one, we are going to discuss them. First of all, he doubted human senses, as they often deceive us. For example, in a dark room, if we see a rope, then we might mistake it as a snake. So we cannot rely on our sense organ of eye. Again, he doubted the external world as it is ever changing. The leaves are green during monsoon and they become dried brown during winter. So there's no certainty over here in experience or in the external world. He doubted even our faculty of reason. He being a rationalist, we have to note that he's doubting even the faculty of reasoning. He says 2 plus 2 seems to be 4. Now, perhaps because some malign spirit entered our brains and convinced us to believe so, we are believing so. Hello? Yeah. So, he also doubted reason, as I was saying. He has gone to such extent that he's saying that perhaps some demon has entered my mind and it is controlling my mind and convincing me to think that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, but actually this is not the case. Descartes doubted the existence of human body also, as some schizophrenics believe that their bodies are made up of glass and not of flesh and blood. Perhaps we have no bodies, but only our brains connected to wires from various computers through which we get information of the external world. Well, this is a thought experiment, which is an updated version of the God being prankster to deceive us every now and then, as had been stated by Descartes. Descartes said that perhaps God is the prankster who is actually deceiving me every now and then by convincing me to believe that this is true, that is true, but actually those are illusions. This kind of a doubt has got its technological version, which has been laid by Hilary Putnam in his brain in vat argument. Brain in vat argument, this is a hypothetical thing which says that all our brains are put into a vat in a solution and are connected to different wires of different computers from which we are getting different kind of information, which means only our brains exist, and the rest information and everything else which we think to be true are actually not there, not even our bodies. Okay. Now, such hyperbolic doubt he is making. Descartes, yeah. Now, basically, what Descartes did is Descartes has doubted sense experience, he's doubted our body, he's doubted our mind, that is reasoning faculty, he's doubted the external world. Basically, he doubted everything one by one. Why? In search of certainty. Did he get any certainty? Yeah. He had to stop at one point while doubting because the doubter cannot be doubted anymore. The doubter is who? The self who is doubting all these things. If the doubter is doubted, then what will happen? Then this would lead to self contradiction. If the doubter no longer exists, then who is doubting everything? So the self, that is the doubter, cannot be doubted. It is indubitable. Indubitable means that which cannot be logically doubted. It is self evident. Therefore, one truth we have received, that is the existence of self. And this was Descartes' first principle or first truth at which he reached after doubting so many things, in fact, all possible things. So one is doubting, one is thinking, therefore, one is for sure existing. If there was no existence, then there could have been no doubt, no thought whatsoever. So comes his famous quote, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, or I think, therefore I exist. Now, who created this doubter or this existing self? I am imperfect, limited, and finite. So I cannot create myself. How do I know that I'm imperfect, limited, and finite? Because there are four phenomena in our lives, that is, birth, death, disease, and old age. These four phenomena we cannot control. So we understand that there's a controller who is more powerful than me, who is controlling the world like this. He is God, who has not only created me, but has also created everything else in the external world. If this perfect being created me and the world, then those things can no more be doubted. Why? Because he is a perfect being. And if perfect being is creating things, then those things have to be perfect, flawless. They cannot be any more doubted. In this way, whatever Descartes had eradicated by his method of doubt, he is re-establishing them one by one, once again on a more certain ground. Moreover, I think, therefore, I am signals the commitment to working through emotional confusion, prejudice, and unhelpful tradition in order to arrive at an independent, rationality founded version of existence. I think, here thinking means rationalization or reasoning. Descartes always focused on reason rather than sense experience in case of acquiring knowledge. Reason leads to certainty, whereas senses and imagination lead to illusion or incorrect cognition. The more we use the faculty of reason, more we get close to being, the truth, the perfect. And the more we use faculties other than reason, there are chances that we reach to nothingness. What is nothingness? That which is absent, which is not true, which is imperfect. Descartes was thus known as the father of philosophy because during this time, far back, he is mentioning the notions of being and nothingness, which were actually used by existentialist philosophers later in modern or postmodern times, by Martin Heidegger or by Sartre. What is this concept of being and nothingness? Well, in this room, there is absence of tiger where we are in our respective rooms. Uh, this means that we are participating in a being over here. Again, we are participating in nothingness over here. What is being? The presence of all different objects in the room, myself. These would constitute being. And what is nothingness? The absence of tiger. And also the absence of whatever can come to my mind. So the absence of things is nothingness. Presence of things is being. Now, in our daily life, we participate both in being as well as in nothingness. Lack of existence or lack of being is nothingness. So, presence of entity is being, and absence of entity is nothingness. Perfection is not about lack, but about bounty. We participate in non being, that is, we believe false things to be true or true things to be false, and sometimes cannot distinguish true from false and fail to make them separate. So often we are subject to different kinds of illusion. We think some false thing to be true, as in uh, some rope to be snake, again, maybe snake to be rope. So we are confused. Okay. Why? Because we are not infinite. We are not perfect God. This is because we are imperfect, unlike perfect God, whose idea is clear and distinct. Thus, here comes the notion of clear and distinct, clarity and distinctness in Descartes. Descartes holds that clear and distinct perceptions are those which are so self evident that while they are held in the mind, they cannot be logically doubted. Pain. I can feel this pain clearly, but I cannot explain its nature to the others very distinctly. A triangle has three angles. All of us, we know this. And the name triangle itself suggests is its essence of having three angles. So everyone can say from the word triangle that its essence would be having three angles. Just as this notion, Descartes says that the very essence of all perfect God, who is omnipotent, who is omniscient, who is omnipresent, is existence. Because we, being imperfect beings, if we can exist, then God, who is all perfect, who has got all goodness and all virtues, must exist too. Must exist too. So, this existence is the very essence of God, although Kant says that no, existence cannot be an essence because essence means a property of a thing, and an essence or property always says something about the subject. If God is the subject here and essence or predicate is existence, then does existence say something about the subject? Now, if we say the red table exists, when we say the table is red, then this property red is applied to the subject table. So we are saying something about the table. We are mentioning about its color. But when we say God exists, table exists, then are we saying something new about the table or God? So existence, because it does not state anything of the subject, thus it cannot be a predicate or essence or property of subject God. This is Kant's view. Now, another thing, we notice a circularity while Descartes is bringing about the notion of clear and distinct ideas, because whenever he is explaining the clear and distinct, then he is bringing in God as an example of clear and distinct. Again, when he is asked, what is God? He's saying that it is a clear and distinct idea. So this uh, is bringing about a circularity. To explain clear and distinct, he's bringing about God. To explain God, he's again bringing about clear and distinct. Thus, he has been criticized of this circularity which he is introducing in explaining his clear and distinct ideas. Many things he believed get messed because of misusing our mind or due to confusion, bad definition, and unconscious illogicality. Descartes criticized passion being contrary to reason. Descartes stated truth cannot be reached at with extreme passion in mind. What are these extreme passions? For example, wonder, love, hatred, desire, joy, and sadness. From these six, mixture of other tertiary passions follow. Descartes, in fact, trained Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia and also later the Queen Christina of Sweden to curb passions and act rationally. And he came up with the book Passions of the Soul. During winter of 1619, his revolutionary idea came to him when he had escaped the fierce cold of the Low Countries by hopping into a stove, spending the whole day meditating inside. Meditation can take one towards truth, perfection, and reality. That is, meditation can take us to being, the ultimate truth. And it can discard the temporary happiness one gets from illusory sense of passion, which no more remains happiness in the long run. Once a group of friends criticized Descartes on seeing him to lie on bed at 11 a.m. in the morning and kept on thinking and thinking. In fact, Descartes then criticized them back by saying, what useful things are you doing? You are doing all nonsensical things which are far from truth, clarity, and distinctness. So it's much better to lie on bed, sit on bed, or sit in a quiet room and keep on thinking. That is what we believe. So again and again, we are seeing thought, reason, rationalization. Meditation means to know things which are within you, to know the self evidently true things. We can only find them if we actually go within ourselves. That is possible at a peaceful state of mind, which can be acquired through meditation. According to Descartes, such a thinking mind has three types of ideas. One is innate ideas. Innate ideas are present in people's mind right from the time of birth. They are uniformly present within us. For example, eternity, soul, God, time. These are innate ideas. This is the first kind of idea of thinking mind. The second kind of idea of thinking mind would be adventitious ideas. Adventitious ideas are ideas acquired from sense experience, like the grass is green, the sky is blue, etc. And third is factitious ideas, not fictitious, factitious ideas. That is, ideas which are originated from our imaginative power. That is from our imagination. For example, golden mountain or winged horse. Well, the concept of wing is very much present in this nature, that is in our experience, and the concept of horse is also present in our material world, although the concept of winged horse is not present. This is an imagination. But if we break the entire concept into two concepts further, then those two concepts, that is the concept of gold, again the concept of mountain, are present in this material world, which means uh, this is not fictitious. That is why this is not fictitious, but factitious, which means it is based on different facts of material world only. Now, out of these three kind of ideas, that is innate idea, adventitious ideas, and factitious ideas, Descartes said that if there are clear and distinct ideas, then that would comprise of the innate ideas of the soul, which are present right from the time of birth in every human being uniformly. Descartes further stated that every human being is composed of mind and body. This duality he first brought about. The characteristic of mind is thought, and that of body is extension. The problem was how would they interact then, as they are diametrically opposite to one another? But they do interact, because whenever I wish to do something, for example, I wish to raise my hand automatically goes up, which means that there is a connection between the mind and the body. The mind is thinking something and the body is executing it. Now, where does this interaction or connection take place? He says that it is in the pineal gland, which is present here in the brain. Although it has been criticized much that there is no clear trace found that scientifically that in pineal gland the two is interacting. However, this remains a mystery, but the fact remains such that there is an interaction between mind and body, although the two are so different from one another. One has thought as its essence, another has extension as its essence. Metaphysics had dominated philosophy for quite a long time. Thus, there seemed to be enough non clarity, as metaphysical objects do not belong to this world of matter. Hence, Descartes wanted to establish philosophical knowledge with a certitude equal to that of the demonstrations of arithmetic and geometry. In other words, Descartes was worried about the uncertain state of philosophy expounded by the philosophers who preceded him. Descartes was criticized for his hyperbolic doubt, but still we cannot call him a skeptic. Why? Because whatever he had doubted, one by one, he had re established all of them on a more firm and certain ground. So we cannot call him a skeptic. Descartes focused on the thinking mind, hence on subjectivity for the first time, as separated from material world, from which emanates the notion of self and its existence. And this opened the door for postmodern Western philosophy, which then started talking not about knowledge and other abstract concepts of philosophy, but started discussing about self and its existence, along with different experiences of dread, wonderment, and hopelessness. Thus, for the first time, Descartes gave some importance to the thinking subject. Before him, no one was really interested, or no one had actually distinguished between the material objects and the thinking subject. So, these are the things that we come across while studying Descartes. Now, I would like to pinpoint as to what we find on summarizing the Discourse on Method, Part 4. Now, can we have the slides, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Just a second.
all right. Is it Avneet preparing the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, this is not the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, now we would pinpoint as to what topics do we have exactly in Discourse of Method, Part 4, and once again, uh, recapitulate things that we have discussed. I would actually like this session to be a bit interactive. Um, First of all, I would like to ask you all, the students, what have you actually known about Descartes, or what do you know about Descartes? Because see, whatever I told you all from a philosophical perspective. So from your background of subject, can you tell me like what things do you know about Descartes? Any student? Okay, Smriti.
Good evening, ma'am. I
Good.
didn't know much about Descartes. I did know he had a
Okay.
connection in geometry, that he
All
connected
right.
algebra
Okay.
to the coordinate system. But I did do a little research before this, and I read
All
that he was
right.
the father of modern philosophy. And
That's right.
I actually read that most of his conclusions were that God was behind everything, our existence, and
Okay.
most of that. Uh, but
All
ma'am,
right.
I had a question. Can I
Yes,
ask
of
it now
course.
or late? Ma'am, you said
No,
that
you can ask me now.
he criticized passion. He said that passion cannot help
That's right.
achieve. But ma'am, in this time when we do most of the things, like anything, a job we want to be happy with, a life we want to be happy with, isn't it done because we are passionate about that? Don't
This is
we?
very true. This is very true. We have
Yeah.
to have that passion. But you know what he actually meant by saying this is we have to motivate our passion or channelize our passion in a very rational manner. I mean, we cannot be only passionate and only emotional. Our reason has
Yeah.
to act as well. If there's a balance between passion and reason, then that is okay. But only blind passion would not
Yes.
do good. Understood. Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Smith.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Now I would like to ask you all one thing, which I was wondering, how is Descartes relevant to English literature? Can you please tell me, anyone?
Urmi, can I come in for a bit?
Please do. I would really like to know this.
Okay, okay. So it is, frankly speaking, because we are doing the 17th century, and some amount of the
Okay.
background readings include Descartes. Okay.
Okay.
So we are looking at the English Civil War and the new kind of ideas that have erupted. Primarily, I guess the focus is on Hobbes and the kind of influence that would have influenced Hobbes. Because if I understand correctly, Hobbes would have read, because he was at some point of time during the height of the Civil War, had shifted to the continent and was living there. And I think Descartes was one of the texts that he would have read. I think Galileo also influenced him quite a bit.
Galileo. Yeah. That's
Yes,
right.
so
Okay.
that in that context, and I guess what we need to do, at least for the students, is to give them a wholesome idea about the English Civil War and keeping in mind the revolutionary and probably the constitutional changes that eventually take place because of the revolutionary ideas that came up during that time. So,
Okay. Okay.
yes,
Shanjita, may I come in?
yes, please, Namita.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to what Dr. Naskar said. Uh, they also do a course on the 18th century, and the students also look at the concept of enlightenment. So there are certain things that they do kind of touch upon, which is rationality, deism, skepticism,
Okay.
especially as it comes in the works of late 17th and early 18th century England, and then
Okay.
reason and doubt and faith and
I
Anglicanism.
understand.
So that's the tangent at which it hits their literary
That's
text.
right. Thank you, both of you. Yeah. So, in that context or in that perspective, I can say that Descartes was a very modern person. Hmm. In comparison to all other philosophers before him, that is the traditional Greek philosophers, they were much influenced by the church. Philosophy then meant theology. It was all God centric. He was the first one to bring in concepts like reason, concepts like existence, subjectivity, which were actually taken up by the later existentialist philosophers. So when Renaissance was taking place, Enlightenment, the age of Enlightenment, when things were changing, the ideas were changing, people were becoming smarter. Then came Descartes to provide some smart concepts in philosophy rather than munching upon the age-old concepts, abstract concepts. So he emphasized upon reason and brought about this analytic kind of philosophy where any problem could be taken to its solution by simplifying it, by making it smaller, and taking it to the smallest unit in its simplified form. Okay, so that was where his rationality came to be important. And now, if we go to this discourse on method part 4, here what we are getting the results of his meditation following the method laid by him. Now, what was the method? Okay, Cheshta is raising her hand. Does she
Good
want to tell
evening,
me
ma'am. Good
something?
evening, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes,
actually,
yes.
I don't know much, but
Okay,
as far as I have read just before this webinar, so
all right.
I do know this that he was a French born, and he does spend
Absolutely.
20 years in Dutch Republic, and he was
Dutch
a
Republic.
natural philosopher. He was a scientist, mathematician,
Mm,
and maybe that's why he has that logical reasoning in his writings. And he was
absolutely.
basically a metaphysical writer, metaphysician.
Uh,
So that's
he,
why maybe he
okay,
had this he brought this logic into his writings, which was not
okay.
before present.
I would like to interrupt you here because metaphysical means what you know. It is all about God, soul, all these abstract notions. Actually, he criticized them. Yes, he had re-established them once again on a ground of certitude, but in the beginning, he had replaced or criticized all of them. He said that these things are not there in this world of matter. So why do we discuss about them? Why are we bothered about them even?
So
So
ma'am,
first
basically he
criticized.
changed these ideas.
Actually,
He
he
brought a
changed them
new.
means he brought these ideas only once again by doubting them, self-testing them, and then re-establishing them on a more certain ground. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay,
Now,
thank you, ma'am.
what was yeah, thank you. What was his method? His method was that of doubt. Okay, so he doubted everything to reach at certainty. He did reach at certainty when he had to stop doubting the doubter, the self. Can anyone tell me why did he have to stop at this stage? Like, why can the self not be doubted anymore? Anyone? He was doubting everything. He was doubting his sense organs. He was doubting external world. He was doubting his faculty of reason. He says that maybe some malign spirit has entered in me and is convincing me to think that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, but actually it is not so. Meaning pure reason, being rationalist, he is also doubting that. But at one point, he stopped his process of doubt because he saw that that particular thing cannot be doubted, which is the self. Why? Why self cannot be doubted? Can anyone say? Because self is the doubter. Self is the one who is doubting everything else. So how can the self be doubted? Therefore, self is something indubitable. This is what the statement cogito ergo sum means. I think, therefore I am. I'm thinking. I'm doubting means this doubting is a process of thought itself. So I'm thinking, I'm doubting, which means I am existing. If I was not existing, then these processes of thought, doubt would not have come into question, isn't it? Thus, the self is the first principle of truth after receiving the knowledge when he got truth or pure knowledge by eradicating or discarding whatever was not required. After receiving knowledge, when he got pure knowledge, then the first pure knowledge or first principle of truth was the existence of self. Now, this self is created by whom? The next slide can we have? Second slide. I mean, yeah, the next third one. Yeah, this self is created by whom? Can you tell me? Have we created our own selves? What do you think? Can we create our own selves, our own body? We cannot. Why can't we? Because we are limited. We are limited. How do we understand this? Because we cannot control birth, we cannot control death, we cannot control old age, and we cannot control our disease. Well, medical science curbs diseases, but it cannot take it to a complete zero. So these four things we cannot control. So we can understand that these are being controlled by someone who is more perfect than me, who is infinite, and who is God. So this God, being the perfect one, is creating not only me, my soul, but also creating everything in the external world. Okay, now the question arises that from where does this notion of perfect God come into me? Because I am imperfect. So in this imperfect being, how can the notion of perfect things coming in? This proves the existence of God, which means there is some perfect God existing either immanently, that is, either in this world, or existing transcendentally, that is, in some other world, doing what? Trying to implant such perfect ideas within us. Otherwise, these imperfect souls could not have achieved those perfect ideas. This proves that God is there, who's implanting such ideas of perfectness, who is implanting such perfect qualities, notions, virtues in us. It is true that we, being imperfect, we also possess certain qualities which are perfect. But how are they coming? Perfect God exists, who is transmitting this perfectness from him to us. This is the first proof of God. Again, the second proof is what? Just as having three angles is the property of a triangle, similarly, existence is the property of God. So here it says that the second proof of God's existence claims that existence is a property of God, just as the property of a triangle is what? Having three angles. From the name only, we can understand that its property would be having three angles. Similarly, from the notion or from verification of notion of God, we can understand its very essence, that is, it does exist. How do we understand his existence? Because if he is all perfect, then he must exist. We, the imperfect beings, we are existing, so he should exist also. Although Kant criticizes that existence cannot be a property because it says nothing more about God. If we say that God is a creator of this universe, then we are saying at least something about God. But if we merely say God exists, then what new are we talking about? If we say red table, then we are, or the table is red, then we are saying something about the table. We are mentioning its color. But if we merely say the table exists, then are we saying something new? So Kant criticizes. He says that no, this is how we cannot prove God. This is actually ontological proof, which had been given by Descartes in order to prove the existence of God. He says we are talking about all goodness, all virtues being imposed upon this all perfect being God. So if all virtues are there in him, then existence must be there too. Okay, but then Kant says that no, existence cannot be a property. This is how we cannot prove God, because existence says nothing more of God. Next slide. Now, in this book, Descartes questioned, how do we know that there are objects external to my mind, that there are minds other than our minds, that you all also have minds just like me? But how do we know that you all have minds? We know this as our self experiences this. Okay. Now, Descartes believed that our sense experiences, imagination, and will, these three things are subjective, although they get connected to the outer objects, but still they do not become objective. Aristotle actually believed that these things of our mind, that is self experience, imagination, and will, because they connect to the objects of external world, thus they become objective. Thus there is no role of subject whatsoever. Previously it was believed that whatever knowledge and concepts that philosophy dealt with all came from the side of objects, and the things are present, and just as they are present we are acquiring them as it is. We have no role, that is the subjects had no role. But for the first time Descartes said that no, we are very important subjects. We are the knowing minds. We are knowing the qualities of the objects. Thus, the objects are being revealed to us. It is not that the objects themselves are revealing or unraveling them. It is our thinking mind which is penetrating into the objects and actually knowing them in and out. So, subject came to be a very important thing in Descartes, which afterwards had been dealt with by many of the existentialist philosophers. So a clear distinction between object and subject has been executed by Descartes. Although how our mind connects to objects of the outer world is a pressing problem. At this, Descartes proposed a way out. He says, I think, therefore I am. Thus, thought here is linked to the external existence. So the question was how the mind, which is inside, can connect to the objects which are outside. Answer is what? I think, therefore I am. So thought, which is there inside me, is connecting myself to the outer object, such as my external existence. So thought, inner, is connected with outer external existence. This is how mind connects to objects. This is a way of which Descartes has shown. Next slide, please. Here, Descartes in this book has also talked of being, the presence, and nothingness, the absence of entity. There is absence of chalk in my hand right now. So being is what? My hand. And nothingness is what? The absence of entity. Being also indicates truth, clarity, and perfection. And nothingness indicates the absence of these virtues. Descartes often mentioned that our aim was to find clear and distinct ideas. So, more clarity, more distinctness, more we are close to the being, the perfect. Okay, now what are these clear and distinct ideas? These are self evident ideas which are there within myself, self tested. Actually, Descartes was a foundationalist. He believed that ideas are
We request everyone to just wait. I think ma'am's internet connection got disconnected, so please wait. She's joining soon, okay?
Yes. Hello? Hello?
Yes, Urmi, please continue.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got disconnected. I'm so sorry. Okay. So where were we? Yeah. So we were talking about clear and distinct ideas. So self, God, and ideas, geometrical ideas, such as three angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. These are clear and distinct ideas. Actually, these ideas are arising from reason, making us closer to the next slide, please. Hello, the next slide can we have, please? Yeah. Such clear and distinct ideas are self evident and cannot be logically doubted. Amongst Descartes' innate ideas, adventitious ideas, and factitious ideas, we've already mentioned that innate ideas to him were clear and distinct. Reason gives us clear and distinct ideas and takes us closer to being, while senses take us closer to doubt, illusion, that is, senses take us to nothingness. Next slide. Descartes doubted senses because he doubted the hello. Again, I got disconnected. I'm so sorry for the interruptions. Okay, Descartes doubted senses because senses do not give us correct knowledge. He doubted even reason by thinking that some demon has entered my mind and is convincing me to think that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. He doubted the external world because the leaves are green in monsoon, they are becoming bright brown in winter. He doubted our bodies. Perhaps we think that there are bodies, but actually there are no bodies. Even after such hyperbolic doubt, one cannot doubt the self who is doubting. Okay, next slide, please. Now, self is indubitable because self cannot be doubted. because self is the doubter. So if self is doubted, then who is doubting? Now, this self is created by whom? It is created by God. And God created not only the self, but also the bodies of us. He has created also the external world. So here's someone was saying, I think Cheshta or someone else was saying that he has talked about the metaphysical notions as God. Yes, he has talked about God because God is a self-evident truth. He is the creator of all limited objects, he being unlimited. Now, the question might arise that who has then created God? Then there is another perfect being who is more perfect than God, who has created God. But no, it is said that God is self created. God in philosophy was a metaphysical entity so far, but Descartes gave him a concrete status. That is, he said that he is to be found as an existing entity. Either he's found immanently in this world, that is here within this world itself, or he's found transcendently in some other world, but he is existing. And because he is existing, he's providing us the ideas of perfectness, which wouldn't have been there within us because we are imperfect beings. God is if we are imperfect beings and existing, then if we are imperfect beings and existing, then God has to exist too. Next slide.
Dr. Ray, please unmute yourself. You're on mute.
Okay, sorry. As it is, I'm going off and on. I'm very sorry for the interruption. I don't know, something's wrong with my connection. Descartes' entire endeavor was to give philosophy a certitude equal to demonstrations of arithmetic and geometry. Philosophy had been a battleground of metaphysical disputes and obscurities before Descartes because every topic of metaphysics had been criticized as they were not found in the material world. So it had been a battleground of disputes. But after Descartes, those abstract notions were re-established by him on a much concrete note. Descartes imparted an analytic method to the study of philosophy, which later helped Wittgenstein and other analytic philosophers to verify concepts clearly. Descartes focused on a thinking mind, hence on subject as distinct from matter, from which emanates the notion of self and its existence. Next slide, please. So here we are getting the notion of self. We are getting the notion of existence. Before philosophy dealt with notions of knowledge, how knowledge came, it dealt with different concepts of ideas. Yeah, then it dealt with metaphysical concepts of God, soul. But what about the thinking subject who's knowing all of these? This is very important. This is where Descartes has brought in the notion of self and its existence, which paved uh, which paved the way for postmodern philosopher. Descartes. Descartes' philosophy opened the door for postmodern Western thoughts, which, instead of munching upon age-old abstract concepts of philosophy, started discussing about existence along with its varied experiences of dread, wonderment, and hopelessness. Now, relevance of Descartes' discourse in today's situation. Descartes always emphasized on reason whose proper exercise can eradicate ethical dilemmas between life and its living, which means whether we are to remain at home and keep ourselves safe and also our family safe by not getting contaminated, or whether we are to go out to earn our living. What should we do? Whether we are to be with those who are afflicted and help them out, or whether we are to again uh, be pent up in our houses and stay secure. What to do at this pandemic situation? Now, such dilemmas can actually be eradicated. How? By proper exercising our reason. Here, where Descartes' discourse, his rationality, his meditation stands firm even in today's situation. He says we can control our passion, emotions, and anxieties through the practice of regular meditation, as stated by Descartes. A mind having clear and distinct percepts can always remain at peace, whereas a confused mind can never be happy. And happiness is all that we are looking for at all times and at all places. So basically, all of us are looking for happiness in any situation wherever we are in. And our mind is clear from any kind of confusion. So, reasoning, meditation, these are the two key words in this discourse on method, where he had actually reached to these uh, clear and distinct percepts through the method of doubt. He had doubted several things, in fact, all things under the sky, and had actually reached at certainty. And once he had reached at certainty, he had re-established all of them one by one. So let's begin with himself. Who created because he is unlimited figure, that is a triangle, has three angles. Having three angles is a triangle, and the triangle has three sides. He had actually criticized or doubted these metaphysical concepts as God, soul, but later he had established them on a more firm ground. Decide to proceed in our lives by removing all confusions in our mind, then only we'll get happiness in any situation wherever we are in. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry for the disruptions which took place. My network was going on and off. Okay, any questions you have? Yeah, Cheshta?
Ma'am, as you said that this notion, this concept was not
Yeah.
brought before Descartes. So
Yeah.
does he face a lot of criticism because everything new, which is
Everything.
not in the social boundaries and people don't believe about it, and his ideas was very new, as you said that he re-established the notion of God, about God. So does he
Yeah.
face a lot of criticism about it, and what was the situation after his uh, re-establishment of this notion?
Okay, very good question. Actually, these were rationalist philosophers. Descartes was the first one to, lay down the stone. Then there were philosophers like Spinoza and Leibniz, who were also mathematicians, who also propagated the notion of reason into abstract philosophy, abstract philosophical notions. Uh, well, he was criticized because before him, dogmatic philosophy, dogmatism was there, but he brought in the notion of reason. Now, there was a further philosopher called Kant. He was known as a critical philosopher. He was the one who had criticized him vehemently, who has criticized Descartes, because he says that Descartes, you're saying that reason is everything. Through reason, you can achieve clarity, certainty, everything. You can even achieve notions like self, God, which were metaphysical things, which were not to be found in this world. You are reaching to those things also, just by reason. Now, Kant comes up with his book, The Critic of Pure Reason, because Kant is criticizing even the faculty of pure reason. He says that reason also has got limitations, and because through pure reason also we cannot reach to God, reach to soul, or reach to the universe as a whole, because those are perfectly metaphysical concepts. Now, actually, reason does what? It helps us to reach at truth. And we've discussed that the criteria of truth is universality, necessity, and certainty. Well, universality, necessity, and certainty, how are they to be found in notions or concepts like God, soul? That can be certain, which are placed in front of our eyes, or if not in front of our eyes, that which can be deduced by reason. But something which is not there in this material world, how can we capture it even through reason? This is where he was very much criticized. That you're saying that soul, God, these are clear and distinct ideas, but how can they be known? Well, through sense experience, they can't be known. Descartes is saying that they can be known by reason. But Kant criticizes that reason and sense experience both are part of us. We are having it, and we are objects or subjects, as you can say, of this particular material world. And God's soul are objects of the transcendental world. So, how can we capture God's soul even with reason from this world to that world? How can we pass on? This was a great criticism which was brought against him. Understood, Cheshta?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I do want to ask one more thing.
Yeah,
Ma'am, what
please.
made you go into such a deep analysis of Descartes? Why did you chose him? And what is your
Mhm.
favorite, favorite concept brought by him? What is your
Okay.
perspective, particular perspective about his
Yeah,
writing?
I liked his method of doubt. I liked his method of doubt because, see, in today's world, we are often at a loss if we just go on face value, or if we just start believing things because we are passionate, or because it is someone who's close to me, that's why we have to believe, or someone great has told me so, or this is something authentic because it is found in this book, or the reference is very authentic, that's why. But even after going after their words, or following their paths, we are deceived. So I really liked this method of doubt. If you have to believe in something, then obviously you'll believe, but first you doubt that thing, then get it tested to a level of certitude where no doubt can come into it, so that you can prove to others also, see, this is the truth because I have self tested it. It is my self experience. It has got self immediacy which unravels it to be truth. And you can also test it yourself, then only you'll understand that this is the ultimate truth, because this cannot be doubted. So whatever we believe by faith or through dogma does not stand good, or does not hold good for a long time. It will only hold good for a long time if we actually start doubting it. Descartes says that I'm using this doubt and pushing it to the furthest level where no doubt can further be brought. Yeah. So have you understood this concept, that where he's stopping his method of doubt? He's stopping it because one particular thing cannot be doubted anymore. This is very important. And that is what? The doubter. See, if I'm doubting what you're saying, I'm being very suspicious, I'm doubting everyone's behavior. I'm doubting my friends. Maybe they are not good. Maybe they are talking against me. Maybe they are doing this, that. Yeah. But one thing though, you have to admit that the doubter is there. Otherwise, who is doubting? I am there. That is why I can doubt such things. So the doubter cannot be doubted. Here, where self comes in, and from self comes God, because God is the creator of such a self. This notion of doubt and then coming to certainty on a more strong ground has actually attracted me to study Descartes. Yeah, that is what.
Thank you, ma'am. It was my first webinar and it was really, really great because of you. You made me understand everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, but I really hope that I could, because these things are so very philosophical, considering your background and the context from which you study Descartes. It's so different. Okay, Smriti wants to ask me something. She's raised her hand.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Okay,
I have a question for Descartes' theory about God being a perfect entity, because
all right.
we can't exactly say it's a fact, because at the
That's
end
right.
Descartes was a devout Christian.
Okay,
He
yeah.
was raised like that, and ma'am, at the end he is justifying everything as God's way. And because even
Mhm.
now pastors were
Yeah.
thoroughly devoted to their faith, who say through faith only you can have reason, you can understand everything. But ma'am, I watched this show. There was this episode where a pastor, he had
Yeah.
cancer. So
All
the
right.
doctor, and he said he didn't want the pain to go away because he deserved that pain.
All
Be-
right.
and
All right.
and then the doctor asked him, she asked him that they had an 8-year-old who had cancer. How can you
Okay.
justify him deserving that pain? And he said the only reason he had cancer so that other kids could have more resources. And if a criminal has cancer, he deserved it. Ma'am, at the end, not everything can be justified as God's way, and we can't exactly say God is a perfect entity, considering the
Very
Greeks,
good question.
because
Yeah.
considering the Greeks, they show gods and humans, people who have made mistakes. There are books, fictional fantasies that actually show gods making mistakes. So we can't exactly say God is a perfect entity when we don't even exactly know what it is.
Very good. Okay, here two things. Okay. Firstly, I would like to say that this is an age-old problem in philosophy. People say it's a very good question, actually. People say that God is all perfect, He is omnipotent, that is, He knows everything, He is omniscient, and He's omniscient means He wants the good of everyone, and He's omnipresent, that is, He's present at every place. Instead of all these highest virtues, uh, how are people suffering so much? Cancer, disease, this, that, many things. Okay, this is the question. Now, here it is said that people are suffering not because God, okay, people are suffering because of their karma. It is their bad account, whatever they've done before, uh, that is what they are suffering right now. Okay, God has got nothing to do with it. God is not intervening in their karma. Whatever they are doing, if they are doing good, they have to get the result, if not in this life but in some other life. Maybe we notice that maybe a person is a very good person but he's suffering so much in this life. We do not understand. We say that, oh my God, God is so evil that he is making him suffer so much. But it is not God actually intervening into it. As I've said, it is his actions. But in this life seems to be a very good man. It is said that maybe in some past lives he has done bad karma. That is why he's suffering right now. So God has really nothing to do with.
But
First thing. Secondly, I want to tell you something here. Whenever in philosophy we are discussing about God, okay, we are actually not talking about the Christian God, like someone as Jesus, or we are not talking about Krishna, or we are not talking about Allah, or anyone like that. Here God means what, our creator. It is just a name given. It is just our creator. It is the force or the immense energy through which nature, or through which the creation is passing. That is what I would like to say. Okay.
ma'am, for the
Go.
first thing you said, karma, many lives. But ma'am, at the end, again, the point that we have many lives, the cycle of rebirth is also a theory.
Theory,
We're not
yeah, we are
sure.
not sure.
So, ma'am,
We
the
are not
entire
sure,
philosophy.
but
Yes, ma'am.
very nice. Like you all are reading English and you're going on asking me philosophical questions, which my students also they are not interested in sometimes. So yeah, I would like to tell you something over here. Yeah, many lives. Well, really, there is no proof that if I'm dying today, I would again come back tomorrow. But there are certain proofs, like in philosophy, we say sanskar, or dispositions. Okay, how come a 4-year-old boy, he is chanting Veda or playing piano beautifully? So scientists would say that it is genetic, it is in his genes. That's why he could do it. But we, the students of philosophy, we say that no, it is the sanskara of the past lives. Otherwise, it was not possible. Otherwise, this boy could do, that boy couldn't. Why? That boy could do something else. Why so? Because he was trained like that in his previous birth. We say a particular thing, like when someone is boarding onto a train, he or she is wearing a white cloth. After the journey, do you think that the cloth would remain white? It would be cladded, right? It would be stained. So it is like that. It is the soul which was white, pure in the beginning, but after so many lives and so many karmas, it has been stained. It has got all black marks, this, that, dirt, and stains onto it. So, yeah, there's no direct proof, but indirect proofs like sanskar or dispositions are there, for which one person is becoming a saint and another person is becoming a terrorist. The aptitudes are like that. Why? So, we say that it's because of the previous karmas. This is how we explain actually.
So, ma'am, it's the most believed theory, the most accepted theory.
Which
The
one?
most accept. And all of this, the sanskar,
Yeah.
the karma, it's the most accepted theory at this point.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's we don't have we only have indirect proof, so this is what we have come up with, that this could possibly be the connection to everything.
Yeah, you know what? You raised a nice topic because this is what I was trying to say. This is what Descartes was saying, that philosophy is all about what people had said, these Samaskars beliefs, because philosophers are saying we have to admit, where is the self testing in it? That is where he executed the process of doubt, to come to certainty. And philosophy actually lacks it. That's why he was trying to give philosophy ground of certitude as mathematics, arithmetic geometry has. Philosophy actually lacks it because there's no proof as such, as you rightly mentioned. Okay, now let's go to Himanshi.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Since Descartes has, am I pronouncing it right?
Descartes, S is silent.
Yes. Since he has talked about theories like existence and he has
That's
doubted
right.
almost
Yeah,
everything, so
that.
I want to ask, what was his theories and thoughts about death?
Okay,
Death.
about death. Okay, yeah, death here would mean, can you please mute yourself? Yeah, feedbacks are coming. Death would mean nothingness. Okay, that is withdrawal from the world is death to him. Exactly, this is what he said about death. Nothingness or withdrawal from the experienced world in which we are in. Withdrawal from this world, withdrawal from all the positive experiences that we are having is what death is, according to Descartes. At this moment, I'm experiencing so many things, I'm thinking so many things, I'm demonstrating or deciphering so many things. But the moment we withdraw from all these processes of thoughts, doubts, suspicions, anything, then that would lead us to death. That might not be the death of the body, but the thought process is gone means we are dead. This is what nothingness is. On the other hand, being is life, presence of everything, bounty of life, and death is the absence of the positive virtues or the positive entities. Yes, Himanshi.
And ma'am, there are many religions, many culture who talks about afterlife. Tibetans have
That,
different theories. Christianity and Islam believe in one life and one theory, but
that's
Hinduism
right.
talks about
That's
rebirth.
right.
So, ma'am,
Right.
what was his theory about this? His thoughts about this afterlife, birth and rebirth.
I cannot hear you. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Himanshi.
Hi, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we actually have a very limited time. So we are going to end the session with one last question by Dr. Swati Pal. She
All
asks,
right.
the Descartesian skepticism makes belief, the notion of faith, seem irrelevant. Existence is often anchored on faith. How does one exist if one has no faith except in the empirical? We are more than the empirical.
Okay. So what ma'am is actually saying is, if we do not have faith, then how are we existing? Well, Descartes had doubted everything. See, believed in everything and reestablished them. So it's not that he did not have faith on these things. First, he had doubted, then he reestablished them. So it's not that he did not have faith on these things first, then he reestablished them. So he doubted everything and reestablished them. Hello? Hello? Yeah. Hello?
Urmi, could you please repeat because I think we lost you in between?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My connection is going off so much. Yeah, what I was saying is, ma'am asked me if we do not have faith, then our existence is almost next to impossible. But actually, Descartes had doubted in the beginning, but we cannot call him a skeptic because in the end, he had actually re-established all of those things which he had doubted. He had doubted sense organs, he had doubted his body, he had doubted the external world, he has doubted even reasoning faculty, but one by one he had accepted all of them. He had also had faith in um, God, soul, universe, and all metaphysical objects. So he actually had faith in all of them. What he did is he first doubted those things to just reestablish them on a more certain ground. So in the end, the faith was reintroduced, or it was actually there. It was a game, you can say, that he was playing with him to test whether those things were worthy enough to have faith on or not. That's what. Himangshi, yes. Himangshi.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks. I had no question. No more questions.
Okay. All right. All right. All right.
Yeah, in case anyone else has any questions, comments, or feedback, please write it in the chat box because we have limited time and we'll be ending the session now. Over to you, Ananya.
I think there are two more students who would like to speak. Could we have the questions quickly, please?
Please raise your hands or you can write it in the chat box and I'll read it out. Chesta, please.
Ma'am, I just want to say this that as Smriti said, that there is no direct proof for
Yeah,
theory of rebirth. Well, this concept does not only exist in India, but also in other places. Also, China also believe in this. They have the concept of yin and yang also, and
that's right.
I also want to say that, ma'am, even when we are infant, so we
Mm-hmm.
see dreams. So some
That's
scientists say
right.
that
Very good.
we see everything that we
Absolutely.
have faced in our past life in our, through
That's
our
right.
subconscious mind. But when we start
Absolutely.
living in the real world, so the
Mhm.
active mind takes place. It comes on the driving seat and it drives us, and the
That's right.
subconscious mind goes at the back. And there
At
are
the back.
some people whose subconscious mind is still active and they remember some parts of their past life still. So
That's
can't
right.
we
That's
take
right.
it in a
This is, yeah, that's right.
proof?
Just as I told you about this samskara, or disposition to be one of the proofs, this can also be another proof. True. Sigmund Freud only had given this theory of conscious, subconscious, preconscious, unconscious. As you said, that it takes a backseat, but yes, this can be one of the proofs also to consider life after death. Yes, that's right. So, have you all understood exactly what I was trying to say about rationalism, about subjectivity, existentialism, and how meditation can control passion, and how reason can be brought up and exercised in our daily lives to do away or eradicate with the confusions of mind to reach clear and distinct ideas? Have you understood these concepts, and how doubt is used in criticizing or eradicating everything, and again to re-establish all of those, and the doubter cannot be doubted anymore, as it would lead to self-contradiction. So that is the first principle, or first truth. The doubter is who? The self. The self cannot be self-created. It is created by someone perfect, that is God. So all these self-God metaphysical concepts, which were superfluous, false, and considered as metaphorical, have been one by one re-established with certitude in philosophy by Descartes. This is why he's called father of modern philosophy, as he has focused on reason and brought up concepts which were not discussed before him, because philosophy was all God centered. God centered means not a God as the creator, but God as a theological entity, that is Christian God. But Descartes is talking about God as a force or power, which is the creator, which is the perfect unlimited source of everything. So those two are different. Before, God was used as some metaphorical concept, not only metaphysical, but also some concept to be believed dogmatically. But now Descartes has shown God is a creator. Life, of course, passion has to be there. Without passion, obviously, we cannot succeed. But yes, reason should be given the topmost seat so that it can control the passion nicely, so that we can balance the two and lead our lives. Thank you.
With this, we end our questionnaire round. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I hope
Hello,
this would help you study this book.
am I audible?
Yes, Neha.
Ma'am, as you said that he doubted on everything. So
Yes.
I want to know that is doubting is a positive thing? So if it is, then we should doubt on ourselves or anything we does in our daily life. So it is okay to doubt on everything.
Yeah, it is okay so far as you're doubting, not for the sake of doubting, but doubting to reach at certainty. When you're trying to prove that something is good to others as well as to yourself, then you have to doubt it. Because without doubt, you cannot just blindly say it is good, or it is good because someone else, great person, has said it. You have to prove it. It's just like mathematics. The riders you do in geometry, you have to prove the conclusion. You start with something and then you have to prove that same thing. You doubt it because in mathematics also you negate that proposition. We say reductio ad absurdum in logic. We negate what we are supposed to prove in the conclusion. So in that way, doubt is good because you're testing it, whether it's really true or not. And when you're finally coming to the conclusion and seeing that it is true, then you can always show it to others. See, I was doubting it just to prove to you all that this is of worth, this is something good. In this way, doubt is good. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All right, Neha. Sanjuktadi, I think we have come to the end of the session.
Honorable Principal, respected Dr. Urmi Ray, and all the guests present here, it's my privilege to give the vote of thanks and conclude this session. I, Ananya Rajoria, on behalf of the English Department of Janki Devi Memorial College, would like to thank our principal, Professor Swati Pal, for encouraging and supporting us always. Thank you, Dr. Ray, for acquainting us with your analysis of Descartes' discourses. We thank you for sharing your knowledge and time with us. A big thanks to Surendra sir for helping us with the technical aspects of this lecture. I would like to conclude this session by once again thanking all the teachers, students, and Dr. Urmi Ray. We are very grateful and delighted to have you all here. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much, students. Thank you for conducting this entire program. Thank you, Urmi, for being here. That was absolutely wonderful. In fact, there's a request to you. Yeah, we would like to get a copy of your lecture if that's available. If you can prepare a paper for us, we would like to share it with our students. Okay. Thank you so much, Urmi. Thank you so much for accepting and taking your time out. Thank you all of you.
Thanks. Thank you.
So we conclude and we stop the session here. Yes.
Yes, I think we can do that. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording and also end the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ray.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.